good morning, everybody. My name is Dean Quick. I'm the board certified music therapist for Levine Cancer Institute, and this is Music Therapy for Self-Care. I'm glad you've joined. So I go live weekdays at 10 a.m. Mondays and Fridays are some instrumental live music sharing. Wednesdays are music therapy specific, and Tuesdays and Thursdays, like today, is a day where I log on and choose some music to share with you, and I'm always open to folks making suggestions of songs for me to share on this channel on those Tuesdays and Thursdays. And typically I share 2 or 3 songs, but today I'm only going to share one. It's a longer song, and there's a lot in it to unpack. Only thought it appropriate that it be Hard Rains Are Gonna Fall by Bob Dylan. It is an amazing song with lots of ethereal imagery. I think that's probably the best way to describe it. And some of it doesn't mean anything, and some of it means a lot. And I think I'd like to talk about it a little bit, then play it, and then talk about it some more. So the format of the song is it has these kind of long verses, and it's a lot of questions and answers, but it's framed around someone talking to their son. And where have you been, my blue-eyed son? What did you see, my blue-eyed son? And what did you hear, my blue-eyed son? And who did you meet? And what'll you do now? Which is the first line in the last verse. And the last verse is really a I don't know, it's a mission statement almost. I mean, it is this telling of, and it's a affirmation after affirmation of what this person's going to do now that they've seen and heard about these terrible things. And the song is loaded with biblical references, which may or may not actually be biblical references, but some people have attributed them to biblical, much in the same way that they do for Leonard Cohen when they take apart his lyrics and analyze them. But Dylan had this quote about it. So, and I'm pulling this online from Wikipedia. So Nat Hintoff quoted Dylan as saying that this song was originally written for in response to the Cuban Missile Crisis, but in Dylan's memoir, Chronicles Volume 1, he attributed his inspiration to the feeling he got when he was reading the newspapers, microfiche. Not sure if I'm saying that right, so correct me if I'm wrong. Newspapers and New York Public Library, and this is the quote from his memoir about Hard Rains Are Gonna Fall. And he said, after a while you become aware of nothing but a culture of feeling, of black days, of schism, evil for evil, the common destiny of the human being getting thrown off course. It's all one long funeral song. And I don't know. I mean, he wrote the song, so obviously, you know, that's how he feels about it. But I mean, the end of this song is so hopeful to me. You know, because he's saying, you know, I'm gonna do these great things, and it's coming from the perspective of the son, right? So throughout the whole song, Dylan's talking to his son, you know, or the narrator is singing, you know, and saying, I've done all these, you know, what did you see? What did you see? And the person saying, well, I've seen all these terrible things. And then when Dylan asked the son, well, what are you going to do? He sums it up and says, well, I'm going to do all of these things, which turn out to be really positive. So he's taken turmoil and turned it into change, positive change. So let me share the song with you, and then we'll come back, and if anybody's watching live, then we will take it apart and look at it together. Get my levels right here. Should be good. Where have you been, my blue-eyed son? Where have you been, my darling young one? I've stumbled on the side of 12 misty mountains. I've walked and I've crawled on 6 crooked highways. I've stepped in the middle of 7 sad forests. I've been out in front of a dozen dead oceans. I've been 10,000 miles in the mouth of a graveyard. It's a hard, and it's a hard, it's a hard, it's a hard rains are gonna fall. What did you see, my blue-eyed son? What did you see, my darling young one? Saw a newborn baby with wolves all around it. Saw a highway of diamonds with nobody on it. Saw a black branch blood that kept on dripping. Saw a room full of men with their hammers a-bleeding. Saw a white ladder all covered with water. Saw 10,000 talkers whose tongues were all broken. I saw guns and sharp swords in the hands of young children. It's a hard, it's a hard, it's a hard, it's a hard, it's a hard rains are gonna fall. What did you hear, my blue-eyed son? What did you hear, my darling young one? I heard the sound of a thunder that roared out a warning. I heard the roar of a wave that could drown the whole world. I heard 100 drummers whose hands were ablazing. I heard 10,000 whispering and nobody listening. I heard one person starve, I heard many people laughing. I heard the song of a poet who died in the gutter. I heard the sound of a clown who cried in the alley. It's a hard, it's a hard, it's a hard, it's a hard rains are gonna fall. Oh, who did you meet, my blue-eyed son? Who did you meet, my darling young one? I met a young child beside a dead pony. I met a white man who walked a black dog. I met a young woman whose body was burning. I met a young girl and she gave me a rainbow. I met another man, I met one man who was wounded in love. I met another man who was wounded in hatred. It's a hard, it's a hard, it's a hard, it's a hard rains are gonna fall. And what'll you do now, my blue-eyed son? And what'll you do now, my darling young one? I'm a-going back out before the rain starts a-falling. I'll walk to the depths of the deepest dark forest, where the people are many and their hands are empty, where the pellets of poison are flooding their waters, where the home in the valley meets the damn dirty prison, and the executioner's face is always well hidden, where hunger is ugly and the souls are forgotten, where black is the color and none is the number. And I'll tell it and speak it and think it and breathe it, and reflect from the mountain so all souls can see it. And I'll stand on the ocean until I start singing, but I'll know my song well before I start singing. It's a hard, it's a hard, it's a hard, it's a hard rains are gonna fall. All right. If you can't tell, I kind of really like that song. Even though that song doesn't originally have a harmonica in it, I kind of wish it did. Hold on one second. That'll be twice this week I've gotten trapped in my guitar. Should be a running joke of this channel. This time I caught it before I embarrassed myself. So that song, I don't know. Maybe Dylan should have harmonica in all of his songs. So let's look at it. So, I really just want to take a couple lines here. Some of the lyrics are a little more ambiguous as to the imagery, right? So, when I was getting prepared for this today, I was looking at what other people have said about it and what they've drawn from it. And in the first verse, I've stepped in the middle of 7 sad forests, and someone was talking about how, it just kind of sets this kind of fictional fantasy imagery, and it's almost like Beowulf with the alliteration there. And I agreed with that. And I've been out in front of a dozen dead oceans, and kind of has the same thing. It's not as alliterative, but it has that fantasy appeal to it, but Some people went a little, a lot further into what I was talking about. A dozen dead oceans, and attributed that to a biblical meaning, since 12 is an important number, not just in Christianity, but across a few different religions there. So I've been 10,000 miles in the mouth of a graveyard. That's kind of apocalyptic sounding too. And I'll take a step back. So we got all this imagery throughout the verses that he's talking about, and answers quite a bit of them in the last verse. In this, like I said, this mission statement, right? So what'll you do now, my blue-eyed son? And so his son says, I'm going back out for the rain starts falling, and I'll walk to the depths of the deepest dark forest. So that forest, right, that's mentioned in the first verse, and where the people are many and the hands are all empty. And it's talking about, we're going back out into this world where people don't have all the things that they need. And I'm going where the pellets of poison are flooding their waters. And someone attributed this to like the lies that are being pumped out. At times when government wants control, right? Then historically, the government of whatever people it is pumps some misinformation out there. And I think we see a little bit of that now, right? And where the home in the valley meets the damp, dirty prison, and where the executioner's face is always well hidden, where hunger is ugly, where the souls are forgotten, where black is the color, where none is the number. He's going out to all these places, and he's going to tell it and speak it and breathe it, right? This truth that he knows, this truth that he holds within, and he'll reflect it from the mountain so all souls can see it. This desire to help. And I'll stand on the ocean till I start sinking. And he's stand there, everybody who's gone to the ocean's probably done that. You just stand there and the waves just kind of wash the earth out from under you. And when you don't move, and if you don't move, eventually you'll just be stuck there, right? I don't think that's what he's going for, but I'm saying he's going to stand on that ocean until it starts sinking. It kind of gives the idea that he's going to stand there in thought. People, the imagery of someone standing and staring out in the ocean, when someone's contemplating something, that's pretty popular imagery. And this, this last line is, I'll know my song well before I start singing. Kind of makes me think that he is standing on that ocean contemplating, right? He's contemplating that song. And, to me, it's a hard rain that's going to fall is really saying if we're not going to fix all of these things that he's seen, then that hard rain is going to fall. We're going to be in a place that's unpredictable in the damage that's going to be done by it, right? Because when rain falls heavily, you find out where the flooding is really quickly, and a lot of people are affected by it. But it goes without saying that he's talking about throughout the song how people are already affected. So that kind of leads me why I chose the song for today is we're living in a time where lots of people are affected. And let's see, there's a line in here. But anyways, lots of people are affected by things, and people aren't listening. I saw 10,000 talkers whose tongues were all broken. It kind of gives you the imagery that like all these people are talking, but for some reason the other person can't understand them. I don't take that as the 10,000 people are saying the wrong things, I take that as they're not being heard. But there was another one specifically. I heard 10,000 whispering and nobody listening. That's what I take it as. That's kind of a connecting point between verse 3 and verse 2 there. I heard one person start, and I heard many people laughing. So the juxtaposition of classes, right? So you got, as one person starving, the other person is enjoying their life so much that they're laughing, right? And, you got to be pretty comfortable to laugh, or uncomfortable, and you're dealing with that uncomfortableness with laughter. But either way, if you're laughing, you're probably not starving. I heard the sound of a clown who cried in the alley. So the irony of it all, right? So a sad clown is ironic because clowns are supposed to be happy and make other people happy. But the sound of a clown crying in the alley, so that's speaking to the irony of all this. And who did you meet? A young child beside a dead pony, which is just sad imagery. A white man who walked a black dog, talking about the inequality in races. Met a young woman whose body was burning. That could mean a lot of different things. The imagery that I get is, back when, oh God, I'm so bad with history sometimes. But when people were when women were being tried for being witches, and they would burn them as a test, I met a young girl, and she gave me a rainbow. I met one man who was wounded in love. I met another man who was wounded in hatred. Those two lines, people attribute to biblical, so like Cain and Abel, and Christ and Judas. Yeah, so there's a lot here, but the power of that fifth and final verse, kind of bringing it all, the answer to some of these questions is, he sums it up. I'm going to go to all these places where all these bad things are going to happen, and are happening, and I'm going to speak it, and I'm going to tell others about it, and breathe it, and think it, and I'm going to reflect it all so all the souls can see it, right? So it's all about unity. It's bringing everybody together around these things, in an effort to help it, right? To help. So that's my take on "A Hard Rain's Gonna Fall" by Bob Dylan. Probably a lot of people say it's, if this had come out before. What's that song? Jeez, I just had it. Well, anyways, it's a top 10 Dylan song for a lot of folks, I learned. And either way, I'm glad I could share it with you today. Just a reminder, I will not be streaming at all next week. And I have so one more stream tomorrow, and then none for a week, and then I'll be back the week following. So tomorrow at 10 a.m., I hope you'll join me for some live music making. I'm going to be creating some music in the moment, and live looping. I'm not sure what it's going to be. I've been using a lot of nature sounds recently. I might dig into that. I'm thinking about maybe, let's see, I did bird sounds, I did jungle sounds. I gotta look. I might try something a little different. I might do like sounds from an airport or something. That's not nature at all. But we'll see. I'll definitely know before 10 a.m. tomorrow. But I'm glad you've joined. If you're just tuning into this live, I hope you'll go back and watch the rest of this video. I feel like this song's really pertinent to the time we're in now, and it speaks to what needs to happen, right? So observe and listen and take it all in, and then reflect what you observe and do something about it, right? So I hope you have a good rest of your Thursday. I hope it's filled with music. Hope you'll listen to Bob Dylan's version of this, pull the lyrics up while you listen to it, and just observe and look at how ahead of his time he was. And it's kind of a reminder of just, none of this is new. This has been going on for a long time. It says a lot more people are starting to care about it, and it's a shame it's taken this long. But I'll leave you with that. So catch you tomorrow at 10 a.m. for some live looping, and I hope you have a good rest of the day. Take care.